Okay, hello, this is Spiky Drummer again, and I am back with a whole load of new videos, and I was really excited about getting started this weekend. I actually got back early so I can get going on this. My family's inside watching Sweeney Todd, and since I've seen it like 5 times now, I decided I'd come out here and make a few videos, so that's why I'm in my garage right now. See that picture back there? That's, well, if you can see it, there you go. You see that picture back there? That's one I drew whenever I was, or painted or whatever, with pastels, when I was 7, I think, 8. Yeah, he's a cool guy. Anyways, I want to talk to you today about the components of the drum set. I've had a lot of emails asking me to show you how to tune the drums, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to work on tuning the drums. I'm going to make this over the course of the next few lesson videos, so I don't bunch this all together in one extremely long video. So if you want to continue to learn the different things that I'm going to have in this series of videos, just keep watching. Okay, the snare drum. This is the very center of your playing. It's going to sit between your legs. It's basically the main punch of the drum set. You've got these springs back here. They're called the snares, and they rest against the opposite head pop sound, and it changes the sound of it completely from being like a tom to a whole different drum. So anyways, when you hit it, you can tell the whole difference. Okay, so there's a switch on the side of the snare that will turn it off completely. Every switch is different, every lever is different. Just pull that down. On mine specifically, you pull this little lever down, and what you do is basically pulls the snares off of the back of the drum, and it immediately becomes a totally different instrument altogether, and sounds something like this. It's pretty nifty to be able to turn that on and off. You can do some different sounds with that. Honestly, I don't do a whole lot of that because it's just not in my style of music, but some drummers like to play differentiating their snare from being on and off, so I guess that's cool if you want to do that sort of thing. Okay, so now we're going to talk about tuning this thing. When you're watching this, remember, there's many different ways to get sounds out of your snare and many different sounds to get from your snare drum. So this is just one of the ways that you can tune your snare drum. It's my personal favorite, and probably the best for death metal and rock and different things like that. I'm going to try and get your sound to be really snappy, really poppy, and that's what I want out of my snare. But of course, there's many different sounds you can get out of your snare, so if you want something different, you can email me and I can tell you how to get that, but I'd be more than happy to help you out. I'm just going to show you for this video my favorite way to tune my snare. Alright, if you're going to be installing a drum head or like a brand new batter head, you're going to take this rim off, and the easiest way to do that is just to unscrew all these screws around the rim. It's very easy to do. You just take your drum key and unscrew them, and there's no specific technique to doing this. You just take the rim off, take your old head off, and put the other head on, and then start screwing the bolts back in, or the nuts back in. And when you finally get them starting to get really, you start to get a little resistance when you're tightening it back, leave it where it is. Just kind of like if you're putting a tire on a car or a wheel on a car, you're not going to tighten it all the way each and every time. You're just going to get each bolt or nut back the way that it's supposed to be, in position. Then you're going to start working with the more specific sound that you want. Alright, the easiest way to do this is to pick any bolt or nut that you're wanting to start screwing in and give it maybe 2 turns. Then you go to the opposite side, which would be, for me, right here, the opposite side, and then screw that in 2 turns. Now, once you've got that, you're going to work your way a 4th around the snare and do the same, and you're going to create like a cross pattern. That's what you're going to do. You're going to start tightening this nut over here, and you're going to start, then you'll move right across and tighten the nut right across from that. Now what that's going to do is keep your snare from wrinkling or pulling too tight on one side. That way you keep the pressure pretty even. And then you just work your way around the drum set that way. You're across here, across, 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 across. And when you've got that, you've got it relatively on there, then you can start looking for the sound of the snare. Another thing you need to do is make sure that around the snare you're going to have the same pull. And the easy way to figure out how you're going to get that, you're going to hit around the outside of the snare with your sticks close to the nuts. If you have the same sound all the way around, you're going to be good. Now, here's where we start focusing on the sound. Start smacking the middle of your snare with your stick, and that's going to show you what your drum's going to sound like. Plain and simple, just like that. If you don't like the sound that you're getting in the center of the snare, then all you're going to need to do is just work around with it, but be sure you keep all the nuts the same. So if you mess with one, you're going to have to mess with them all. That's how you tune a snare, really, and I prefer to keep mine really, really tight. So mine are often as tight as they'll go. And also another thing you can do to add some tightness, and it's also very important in tuning your snare, is bringing the springs closer to the back of the snare. Now how you do that, and how I do it, is you turn your snare off like that, and there should be a little knob right there, right beneath your switch or whatever, and you just twist it. And you twist it down pretty tight. Mine's about as tight as it'll go. And then I pull the switch back up. And, you know, it's the same as, you know, screwing on the lid of a Coke can or something, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Same thing with all the nuts. It's the same thing. They make it pretty easy for you. So that's relatively how you tune a snare. And I know a lot of people are really specific about like pressure gauges and things like that they can put on their snare. I have one, and I've never used it. I just listen. That's all that I do. And you just listen to your drums too until you get the correct sound that you want, the sound that you want. Just sample with your sticks. And be sure that all of the nuts are at the same pressure just by sound. And listen for it.